the world is effed up. We all know that. But at the same time, it doesn't mean that God doesn't exist. Because people get very emotional about that. They say, since the world is so crazy, so chaotic, how could there be a God? But you have to put this how I look at it. I want to go to heaven. So I know the first thing as Muslims, we need to believe in everything that Allah and His Messenger said. So we know that in Islam it's told that life is a test and there's going to be a good and bad, all types of stuff that happens. So I have to be able to believe that because I want to go to heaven. So I'm not going to let that thoughts that come in my head, most of these thoughts are from Shaitan. He tries to whisper to you and try to deceive you and tell you stuff like this, like how can there be a God? And how would he let this happen if there's a God? You gotta think that, man, something is trying to take me away from Allah. Something is trying to prevent me from going to heaven. Like, I'm not saying I'm gonna go to heaven, but I know I want to. And I want to try. And I don't want that to be the reason to hold me back. Something like that. So, that being said, I have to put that's how I look at it. I put my emotions and these negative thoughts in the back seat. Because it's natural. We all have these thoughts. But I have to overbalance it with faith. I have to give the benefit of the doubt to Allah. And I gotta realize that what He said and everything, it's like, it's true. And I have to give Him the benefit of the doubt. Even though there's evil stuff that goes on in the world, it is just, it's just that's how the world is. I'm not gonna say there's no God because of that, and why does He allow it? Because think about this. God made human beings and jinns, the only ones with free will. We're allowed to do good or we're allowed to do bad. And I heard if we go to heaven, us human beings, we're greater than the angels in ranks because the angels are basically they're only doing what Allah commanded them to do. They don't have the ability to disobey Allah. And animals, they basically follow their desires. But humans, so they're not going to be questioned. But humans and jinns are creatures made from smokeless fire. But they're going to be questioned and they're going to have a day of judgment. Because we were given free will, we're allowed to do good or bad, evil or good. We're allowed to do that. So Allah made this earth and He gave us the time to live here. And He is going to see which of us are the best, and He's going to judge us accordingly. Who's going to get heaven, who's going to get hell. He's going to basically see all this stuff. At the end of the day, obviously, it's by His mercy, but He's gonna He's gonna see our actions. So think about that. If He gave us the ability of free choice, freedom, free will, and to do good or to do bad, and then He made this earth as a test. So what do you think's gonna happen? There's gonna be people that does good. There's gonna be people that do evil, and He's allowing that because the time that we're given here is a time that He's giving us to test us out. It's like a performance test. Now, on the other hand, you can't just say, why is God allowing all this evil? Because that contradicts the whole purpose of why He created us. He created us to test us, to see which of us do good and which of us do bad. So that's basically the answer right there, if you think about it, because He made this earth as a test. And for us to worship him. And I don't want to get into too much detail about that, but worship isn't just praying and stuff, but it's to like follow his commands in Islam and stuff like that. But that's a different topic. But what I'm saying is that that's basically the answer. Like, think about it. God, if he seen all this evil in the world and then he just stopped it and he didn't allow this, then how is this even a test anymore? That's just like it defeats the purpose of the test. He's he made it as a test for us to allow us to do whatever we want to do so he can give us heaven or hell. He can reward us or punish us. So people that do good and they are on the right path, then they're gonna get heaven. But then you see people that do crimes and all types of crimes and evil, then they're ultimately basically providing their own evidence to their own destruction in hell. It's like you can't just lock someone up for life in prison for no reason. He has to commit a crime like murder in order to get the time in prison. Similarly, would it be just for Allah to just send somebody to hell without him doing the evidence that leads him to hell? So the people that are doing all these evil stuff in the world today, they're basically making their own evidence that's gonna come forward on the day of judgment, and that person will be in hell if he doesn't uh if Allah doesn't forgive him, if he doesn't seek forgiveness, stuff like that. But he will basically get his due justice. The stuff that he done wrong, he will get his justice. So everything will be just. Even though this world seems injustice, everything will get the just the justice that it deserves. It's and yeah, I know this world is messed up, but it's crazy. But you got to think of it like this. Like think of this helps me out. If you think of it like the world is kind of like a dream, okay? It's like imagine I just woke up, I was in a nightmare and people were just killing people. Everything so horrible that you can't even imagine was just going on. And then I can't believe it, like why is this happening in my dream? Then I just woke up in the middle of nowhere and I was so relieved that I realized that this was just a dream. So that dream didn't affect me when I woke up. It's like my health was still good, alhamdulillah, and everything about me was just normal. That dream had no effect on me when I woke up. So now, if you think about this world like a dream, and then this is just temporary, when you wake up in the next life, it's like all this stuff that happened in this life isn't even gonna be a big deal. Like the like how do I say this? Of course, it's a big deal now because we're living in it, and the suffering and all that stuff is horrible. But we feel so horrible even about it like a thousand times more because we're so in love with this world and we're attached to this world that we think this is permanent, that this is the only life we have. But in reality, this is just temporary. This is a dream, and the next life is permanent. So if we realize that this life is nothing but a test, then we would understand that our attachment should be to the akhirah, the next life, and we should realize that everything that's going on in this world, the bad, the suffering, the torture, all that type of stuff, it's only happening for a reason, and it's gonna be over soon, and those people, they may be like something bad is happening in this life, but in the next life they may be going to paradise, and the torture that they felt for like 50 years or whatever, it's sad, but imagine in the next life they're eternally in paradise. Then that 50 years of suffering would feel like it's nothing compared to the grand scheme of things if they're in heaven forever. Like If I was told I needed to suffer for 50 years and then I'm in heaven for the rest of my life for paradise eternally, I'll be like, all right, man, I'll suffer as much as I can if I got something greater coming to me. So that's one thing. So what I'm trying to say here is if we weren't as attached to this world and our faith was strong and we really looked at this life as temporary and we realize it's just a test and the next life is the permanent life, then we would not let our emotions drive us away from God. We wouldn't say, oh, there couldn't be a God. Because we would realize, okay, God told us this is a test, so we can't take it like so personal and say, I'm mad at God or something. Why would God allow that? Because I explained earlier that this is a test and he allowed it to happen because of the fact that he gave us free will. So it's kind of like if you didn't like if what would be the purpose if it's like you're telling God that no, you can't do this. You can't make a world where we have free will and allow evil. If you're gonna go that route, that's like you basically feel like you have the ability to tell God that you are not right to even make a world like this where you give people free will to do what they want. And that's not right because we have no play here. We're just a creation. God made us and he gave us free will and he wanted to punish or reward us based on our actions. So that's just part of life. We just got to deal with it. I mean, if you want to go to heaven, you can't just think like that, like, oh no, God's not fair. You just got to deal with the facts, like that's what it is, and just deal with it. Nobody said this was going to be Disney World, so that's our own problem. We be thinking that God made it like Disney World. How can it be evil? That's our own perception, but God never told us this is going to be Disney World. It says it clearly that this world is gonna be messed up. There's violence, all type of stuff because it's a test, like I said. So all that being said, what I'm saying is, this world, if you think of it, if you don't fall in love with it, and if you're not so attached to it like that, where you love it so much, like this is the only life and there is no next life, there is no afterlife, then you're gonna feel like so emotional and personal about it, which of course to a degree we should, but we shouldn't to a degree where we feel like this is the only life, because we should believe it as a test, as a test, me included. I need to believe it like that too. It's not like I'm saying I believe it as much as I should, but I know I should. That way I won't get attached and I won't let these whispers from Shaitan, these waswas, these thoughts drive me away from God and get so emotional, personal about it and say, oh, there's no God. There's no God because he couldn't let this happen if there was a God. I wouldn't think like that. I would rather think, okay, this is a test. God is testing people and testing us to see how, if we like lose faith in him. Maybe that's one of the reasons behind it, to see who still believes in him even after all these like crazy things, and who doesn't believe in him. And like there's a lot of things he probably tests us through these things. But yeah, so going back to what I was saying, and then when you wake up, when you die, is basically when you wake up from this dream, and it's not gonna we're gonna probably realize once we die, when we wake up, that wow, how this was all just a dream, and I wish I had faith, and I wish I did give God the benefit of the doubt, and I believed in him completely and did as much as I could to try to get to paradise. I was gonna say more, but I forgot.